It's time for Big 12 fans to come together with College Game Day getting set for a trip to Lubbock this weekend. Welcome in. I'm Pete Mundo. We're Heartland College Sports. We are glad that you are here joining us as always. We do our live broadcast here. We will get to our power rankings. I'm going to save those. So hang on. We're going to do Mailbag first and talk about how the Big 12 can make this the best game day weekend ever. And it requires Texas Tech fans and BYU fans and any other Big 12 fans who stumble upon Lubbock this weekend to make it an all-out showing on behalf of the Big 12 Conference. We'll go through it. First, we ask you to like the video as always. Please do that. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel if you're a Big 12 or college football fan. I'll get to your questions here coming up as well. But this came to me, and I'm like, I've got to share this on the show. This is an amazing idea. I don't know where it came from. I saw it on X, but it was a screenshot from some other platform, and it did not look familiar to me. And I'm like, this is what we need to do. And I'm going to use this platform, this website, the show, the podcast, however you're getting our stuff, the newsletter. I'm going to use it all to promote and pump this idea for game day this weekend. Let's call a truce as the Big 12 and use this platform on College Game Day on Saturday to let it rip against ESPN, the SEC, and everything that has been anti-Big 12 for far too long. Instead of taking shots at each other, let's take shots at the other conferences. How about a sign this weekend that reads the Big 12 is 6-1 versus the ACC? How about a sign that reads Missouri's best win is over Kansas? How about a sign that reads both TCU and Baylor beat SMU? What about this sign? Virginia beat UNC by 1 inch. UCF beat UNC by 25. Oregon's best win is Northwestern. The media says the SEC is tough week in, week out. The Big 12, too much parity. Let's remind our friends at ESPN this weekend that Iowa State beat Iowa. Let's talk about how Notre Dame's best wins are losses. There's a great sign for College Game Day. Pitt lost to West Virginia. There's a sign on College Game Day too. Or how about this? Tennessee still has not beaten anyone, but everyone in the SEC gets credit for beating them. Ask yourself why that is. It is an absolute utter scam and sham. And this is what we need to do at College Game Day this weekend. Come together, unite around this conference, unite around what is going to be a very critical few weeks for the Big 12, whether or not this league can get 2 teams into the college football playoff. Dare I say 3, but I won't do that. I think that's too far right now to go down that rabbit hole. A lot would have to happen to get 3 in. But there is a scenario where that could happen. There's no doubt about it. That's being talked about on the Heartland College Sports forums right now. That's why you got to go there. They're free. Sign up. Join the conversation. But these are the game day signs that we need to rally around this weekend. And if you have other ideas, put them in the chat. Comment right now on the YouTube channel. Send me an email. If you're listening on the podcast, drop us a DM on Instagram, on X, on Facebook. Whatever your ideas are, I want to share them. I want to blast them far and wide. And I want to see the Big 12 come together this weekend and call out the other conferences and make this league look great and use the game day signs to do it. I don't care. Let's highlight this league and the hypocrisy in the coverage of this amazing sport of college football that sadly is covered poorly by the biggest TV partner the Big 12 has. Although I'm glad they're coming to game day this week, I will say that much. I'm Pete Mundo on Heartland College Sports. Glad you're joining us. Get your mailbag questions in right now. I'll look at those. We'll do that here. And then we'll do power rankings later in the show. Why are we doing them later in the show? Well, a lot of our videos are just going nuts. Tens of thousands of you are consuming our videos. Hundreds of thousands of you are consuming our content through video and podcast. The power rankings, for some reason, didn't give me the juice that I needed from you guys. So we're going to put the mailbag first and then do the power rankings at the end. So let's get to some of your questions. John says here, Is it more likely the Big 12 gets 2 teams into the college football playoff or the SEC gets 5? I hate asking this question. I hate that you asked it, John. But I'm going to be an optimist here. I believe it's more likely the Big 12 gets 2 teams in than the SEC gets 5. Maybe I'm crazy. You can call me nuts. But I really think that we are on a trajectory for 2 teams to have a pretty decent chance right now to get into the college football playoff. Now, ask me next week. I may have a different answer. But for right now, I believe the Big 12 is well positioned. There are 3 teams who have a chance. It's BYU, it's Texas Tech, it's Utah, and there's still Houston on the outside looking in. So there's really 4 teams, to be fair, that have a chance to make a college football playoff with 4 weeks left. And while I expect plenty of chaos, I do believe that this league is well positioned to find itself in a place where it can get 2 teams into this 12-team playoff. And last year wasn't the year for it. That was maybe debatable. When you look at BYU's resume and what they had done up through last season, fine, okay, Arizona State won the league. It got in. There was a case for an at-large BYU. Committee didn't bite. Is this the year that they finally say, you know what? Even if BYU loses this weekend, they come back, they win the Big 12 championship, they're in. Texas Tech in that scenario also finds its way into the college football playoff under that scenario. BYU wins this weekend. Texas Tech comes back, win the Big 12 championship. If they get a rematch, Texas Tech's obviously in, and BYU would be in that scenario. You can also find ways for Utah and Houston to find their way in. But the overwhelming odds right now, when you look at various analytics, BYU and Texas Tech have overwhelmingly the best odds to win the Big 12 based on tiebreakers and things of that nature, and as a result, make the college football playoff. And yes, they both could do it. No matter what happens this weekend, they both could end up doing that. So that's why it's a great time to be following this conference. Let's see what else. Throw your questions out there right now on the YouTube channel. We will get to your Q&A mailbag. Let's do it. Dustin says here on Facebook, with Sam Levitt out, is this week's showdown between Tech and BYU a preview of the Big 12 championship game? I believe it is. And part of that is just because of what I saw from Houston and the way that Houston was just, in such a great position to win out. They had the easiest schedule remaining of any contender in the Big 12, and they totally blew it against West Virginia at home, not even in Morgantown, at home. That was just absolutely pathetic. So that's where you look at it and you say to yourself, man, now you look at tiebreakers and things of that nature. It does not look good for Houston, even if they win out a relatively easy 3-game schedule. I say relatively because, well, look what happened against West Virginia. Utah already has losses to BYU and Texas Tech. So for Utah, it becomes much more difficult for them when you look at the lay of the land and the fact that they obviously don't have a tiebreaker against either of those teams. So Utah would have to win out and get some help. Like, you would probably need BYU to win this weekend and then hope that Texas Tech stumbles somewhere along the way. That's for one more loss. That's what you would need to have happen if you're a Utah fan. So could they lose to BYU? Sure, but they're a 10-point favorite. Then they've got UCF. Then they've got West Virginia on the road to wrap up the year. UCF and West Virginia, I know the Mountaineers are coming off a really good win, but still, that's a pretty easy stretch there to wrap it up for the last 2 games of the year for Texas Tech. So it really is difficult right now to find a different scenario. And that's why I do believe that this weekend's game at this point is going to be a preview of the Big 12 championship game coming up next month. Drop in the questions. Let's see. Jared says here, thoughts on how Utah has the tiebreakers if there happens to be more than 2 two-loss teams in second place. If BYU and Utah both win out, the most likely scenario is that we get a holy war rematch. Well, no. If BYU beats Texas Tech this weekend and then Texas Tech beats UCF and West Virginia. Texas Tech has a head-to-head over Utah, right? So that's not going to – the tiebreaker things, beyond that don't matter because Tech has the head-to-head. I mean, you can tell me if there's some understanding of the tiebreaker rules that you have that I don't there, Jared. I'm not knocking you. I'm just saying you need Utah to obviously win out, and then you need Texas Tech to really stumble down the stretch here. And that would start with a loss this weekend. Okie Light, how much do the bottom teams like my Oklahoma State Cowboys hurt the conference come playoff selection? It's a good question because the Big 12 is bad at the bottom, and Oklahoma State leads the way. And Colorado looks like it wants to join Oklahoma State at the bottom, sad to say, based on how they played the last couple of weeks. But you know what? UCF and West Virginia. Now, UCF had a dud against Baylor, but UCF has shown some signs of life. They blasted UNC, who, as we just talked about, barely got beat by UVA. And then West Virginia has a win over Pitt. So I actually don't think outside of Colorado and Oklahoma State, there's really a lot of dead weight in this league right now. I think Arizona is a team that's gradually getting better. I think that even a team looking near the bottom of the standings like KU. I mean, KU had Mizzou on the ropes early and then just blew the game. Baylor, Arizona, Iowa State. I mean, Baylor's beaten SMU. Iowa State's beaten Iowa. TCU's beaten SMU. So there are some good wins in the non-con by teams that we perceive to be bottom feeders in the Big 12 conference right now. So I don't think the bottom really hurts except for Oklahoma State and to a lesser extent, Colorado. I mean, Oklahoma State's just been a flat-out embarrassment. They are looking like what Kansas was when it was at its worst over the last decade and a half. So that's where you look at it, and it's like, man, for the Cowboys, they're a mess. But the rest of the bottom of the league is actually not as bad as maybe some people perceive it to be. Put in your questions right now in the mailbag. Like the video. We'll get to the power rankings coming up here in a few minutes on the show. What would be more valuable for the conference? Getting 2, maybe 3 teams into the playoff. This is from Gavin. Or having one team with a deep run in the playoff? That is a great question, Gavin. The Big 12 is better off with one team making a big run. The Big 12 needs a team to make a run in this 12-team playoff. That is how you end up getting respect and getting more teams to ultimately make the college football playoff in future years. You need that credibility. And the only Big 12 teams to have won playoff games, the TCU team, that won one to get to a national championship under the old 4-team model. They beat Michigan, but then we know what happened against Georgia. They got just demolished. And in some ways, it might have been better if they had lost to Michigan based on how that national championship game went, because that sticks out in people's minds, and that was hideous. It's a great question, Gavin. I'm glad you're here on the channel. I hope that you're subscribed, Gavin, to the Heartland College Sports YouTube channel and podcast, because that was a fantastic question. And it is one that is worth debating, but I'm all in on getting one team to make a deep run. If you get a team to the Final Four this year, and you pick that team, if it's Texas Tech, if it's BYU, if it's Utah, if it's Houston, if any of these teams make a run like that for the Big 12 conference, that's the kind of thing that then builds your credibility for future years. Because if not, then next year, if the Big 12 gets 2 teams in this year, they both get knocked out early in the first round, let's say. Then next year, if the same debate comes up, you know and I know it's going to happen. The SEC is going to be crying, complaining about how, well, we let these 2 Big 12 teams in. They couldn't sniff our jockstrap in the SEC. So why are we letting 2 Big 12 teams in? They can't hold a candle to us. If the Big 12 gets a team that makes a Final Four, wins an SEC or a Big 10 game, maybe both in this playoff, that is the credibility the Big 12 needs right now. And it helps them in future years get teams into the college football playoff beyond just the Big 12 championship. So that's why that's an important conversation to have here as we look at the broad landscape of the Big 12, the college football playoff. We need and want that team, whoever that team is, to make a deep run in this thing. It's critically important right now. Pete Mundo on Heartland College Sports. Please make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. Never miss an episode. We've got you covered. Everything Big 12, calling out the SEC and ESPN bias and nonsense. That happens right here at Heartland College Sports. Let's see. What else? Colin asks, thoughts on Cincinnati? Well, I was higher on them going into the game, and I guess I should probably include them in the conversation somewhat when you talk about playoff chances. But that was disheartening at Utah over the weekend. I was more bought in. I thought Utah would win the game, which they did. I thought Cincy would cover, which they did not. But they did not look good. The defense got rolled over. The offense had too many mistakes. Sorsby was not himself. I know it's a good Utah defense, but I'm down on Cincy coming out of that one. Unfortunately there, Colin. I want to be wrong about it, but I don't think I am. Big Lyman 34. I think Tech fans should boo the game day crew and throw tortillas at them when they talk about the SEC. I will not sit here and lobby for anybody getting tortillas thrown at them. If they want to throw tortillas up in the air and boo game day every time an SEC team gets talked about or an SEC game gets talked about, sign me up. All right? I will be your spirit animal. I will be there thinking about all of you who want to go that route, but I do not advocate for throwing tortillas at anybody. No way, no how. Cornelius says, I'm pretty sure Big 12 podcasters cry and whine the most. Everything is the SEC, thus SEC, or SEC this, SEC that. Ugh. Well, Cornelius, if the college football media, broadly speaking, did not absolutely suck at its job, we would not have this problem. And I don't sit here and whine about anything. I simply call it what it is. I have 3 little kids. They are 6, 4, and 1. If you want to hear whining, come to my house. You will hear plenty of whining. What we're doing here is not whining. We're just pointing out the obvious. We're pointing out the facts. Okay? We're pointing out that Missouri's best win is against Kansas. We're pointing out that Alabama got destroyed by a crappy Florida State team. We're pointing out that Tennessee still has not beaten anybody, but everybody in the SEC gets credit for beating Tennessee. Tell me why that is. Because of SEC bias. That's it. There is no doubt about it. That is it. And everybody knows that to be the case. Hook and Ladder, thanks for your comment. And also, thanks for being a star member of the Heartland College Sports YouTube channel. We appreciate you doing that, my friend. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Get right to your comment. If BYU beats Tech, I think they should throw the Cincy game up to avoid Tech in the championship. Oh, you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that, do you? No. If BYU beats Tech, I believe they'll take care of Cincinnati. Okay, I say that with all due respect to Cincinnati, but something tells me that if they end up with the win, and they actually pull off an upset this weekend. I'm not saying it's impossible. I just won't sit here and tell you it's likely. If they are able to do that, then I believe they will take absolute care of Cincinnati. Thank you for the input. And also, thanks for being a super subscriber here at the Heartland College Sports YouTube channel. We appreciate you doing that. You can drop a super thanks under the video. Helps to keep the channel growing and the content coming every single week. We appreciate you guys. That super thanks is right below the video. What else do we have here? Oh, Cornelius back in the chat saying, I'll give you that one, Pete. All right, good deal. Good deal. Big Lyman says, now parity is what makes the SEC good. Of course it is. Of course it is what makes the SEC good. I say that very much tongue in cheek. See, the Big 12 If it has parity, everyone's mediocre. If the SEC has parity, it's because everyone's really good and can win a national championship. And that's the kind of nonsense that we've got to call out. So that's the purpose of the conversation here. I'm Pete Mundo on HeartlandCollegeSports.com. Let's dive into the Big 12 football power rankings for the week. Let's do that right here on the show. I'll count them down from number 16 up to number 1. At the bottom of the Big 12 football power rankings this week, I'm going with Oklahoma State. I know you are shocked. Cowboys played a football game. They lost again. They did cover the spread, backdoor. Do with the information what you want. They stink. They're at number 16. I almost put Colorado at 16 because of how pathetic Colorado has been in their last 2 games. They have been outscored in the first half of the last 2 games. Utah, Arizona, 82-7. It's an embarrassment. It's Juju time. Put him in a quarterback build for next season. Play the guys who want to give 100% effort and move on if you're Coach Prime. I don't mean like move on to another team. I just mean move on to preparing for next season and see what you've got. Please make sure you like the video right now. Heartland College Sports. UCF at number 14, same place they were last week. They came off the bye and played arguably their worst game of the season. They were ugly on both sides. And it was a game where if they wanted to get to a bowl game, they had to pull it out, and it wasn't even close. So UCF, Colorado, Oklahoma State, the bottom 3 right now in the power rankings. At number 13, the West Virginia Mountaineers move up a couple of spots after a very good win on the road against Houston. Now, I wanted to move them up further because that is a really solid road win, but 2 things. Houston's atmosphere is non-existent. Houston fans have to get their game on when it comes to football. You got a top 25 team. At least you had one. And nobody was in that stadium on Saturday. But West Virginia still 0-5 coming into the game. I couldn't move them that much higher, but I put them at 13 this week from 15. At number 12, Kansas stays where they were last week. At number 12, they did what they had to do. Big win over the Cowboys. Weird first half. But then they pull away in the second half, 4 straight touchdowns to seal the victory. Baylor stays at number 11 following a dominant win over UCF. I didn't see it coming. I was riding UCF in the game. But once again, not exactly one of the toughest opponents in the Big 12, so I am keeping Baylor right now in that number 11 spot. Arizona's number 10, same place as last week. They blast Colorado, dominant win. Problem is, it's Colorado. How much credit can I really give them when you're blasting Colorado, who looks like it's the second worst team in the Big 12, although they may be trying to give Oklahoma State a run for its money. At number 9, Iowa State, also where I had them last week. There is some consistency here in these power rankings until we get to the top 5. So Iowa State's at 9, and I give them an edge over Arizona, even though Iowa State lost, because of their dominant win in a head-to-head matchup. And Iowa State beat Arizona by 4 scores. But Iowa State has lost 4 in a row, first time since 2022. So it's been a rough stretch in Ames, driven by injuries, but also inconsistent play, most notably from Rocco Becht. At number 8, TCU on a bye week after a hard-fought road win over West Virginia. No reason right now to move the Horned Frogs off of the number 8 spot. At number 7, Kansas State stays where they were. They smoked KU a couple of weeks ago. They came back. They got dominated at home by Texas Tech, lost the turnover battle 5-2. This loss basically takes Kansas State out of the Big 12 title race with 4 games left in the season, and this is not where Wildcats fans thought they were going to be going in to the final 4 weeks of the year. At number 6, it's Houston. They were 4 last week. They fall down to 6. We just talked about how their season seemed to go up in flames with a home loss against previously winless West Virginia. That is a blown opportunity for the Cougars, and now the season turns into one big what if. At number 5, Arizona State. They move up from 6. No Sam Leavitt, no problem. What a great performance by backup quarterback Jeff Sims. Led the Sun Devils to a dominant rushing attack, nearly 300 rushing yards in Ames. by an opponent. That is unfathomable. They're still on the outside looking in on the Big 12 title race, but that was a great game for the Sun Devils last weekend. At number 4 is Cincinnati. They fall from number 2 to number 4. I don't believe it's fair to say Cincinnati's a paper tiger, but they did confirm many people's fears in their blowout loss at Utah. I was more bought in by many, but I guess that's on me. Now they take on Arizona, BYU, and TCU to end the season. None of those games are going to be sure bets for the Bearcats, but they're still in the Big 12 title hunt. At number 3, I've got Utah moving up from 5 after rolling Cincinnati at home. I almost put them at number 2. I'll explain why I didn't. It'll be very obvious to you coming up here in a second. But a very nice game by Utah. They've had a couple of great weeks in a row since their loss to BYU, and they really do look like a legit top 15 team in the country. Top 12, that remains to be seen. At number 2, Texas Tech up from number 4. They lost to Arizona State, come back, and they get a big win over Oklahoma State. They handled K-State on the road this past Saturday. They're back to being number 2, and I gave them the edge over Utah because they've got that big head-to-head on the road in Salt Lake City. I thought about maybe having Utah at number 2 this week, and then I said, Tech still has that head, and it was dominant on the road. I just can't do it. And at number 1, the BYU Cougars, where they were last week, a well-deserved bye week. At this point, I'm not taking them out of that top spot. But now they go to Lubbock, and they are a sizable double-digit underdog, depending on the book that you look at, somewhere between 9.5 and 10.5 points. And if they want to maintain that top spot, and I know what they have to do, and that is go to Lubbock and win this weekend. Let's run down the Big 12 power rankings for Week 11. I'm Pete Mundo on Heartland College Sports. BYU is 1, Texas Tech is 2, Utah, number 3. At number 4, it's Cincinnati. Number 5 is Arizona State. Number 6, the Houston Cougars. 7 is Kansas State. 8 is TCU. Number 9, the Iowa State Cyclones. At 10, the Arizona Wildcats. 11, the Baylor Bears. Number 12, the Kansas Jayhawks. At 13, the West Virginia Mountaineers. Number 14, the UCF Knights. 15, Colorado Buffaloes. And 16, the Oklahoma State Cowboys. There you have it, the Big 12 power rankings for this week. Let me know what you think of the way this show was done. I reversed it. I did the power rankings at the end. I did the mailbag on the front side, just based on some of the feedback I got. But I want to hear from you. If you're on the podcast, drop a 5-star rating and review. That helps us a lot. Really appreciate you doing that. And if you're on the YouTube channel, just drop a comment on what you think. And you can always reach out to me anytime via email. It's PeteMundo@heartlandcollegesports.com. Also, we've had various folks reach out, just a quick note, about interest in having their business affiliated with this show. I am open to those conversations. The show has grown tremendously because of you, which we really appreciate. Please make sure you're subscribed. But if that is you, your business, please reach out. I do want to make sure it works for you. Most importantly, that's what this is about. So email is the best way to get a hold of me on that front. Pete Mundo, MUNDO @heartlandcollegesports.com. Have a great rest of your day. It's going to be an awesome weekend in the Big 12. Can't wait for it. I'm Pete Mundo on Heartland College Sports. Take care.